Hello ladies, so this is going to be a training about the career path. So everything that 31 has to offer you if you decide that you want to move up that ladder, which I highly recommend. So this is known as the income disclosure statement. Can be found right on TOT, often referred to as the IDS, the income disclosure statement. So what you're looking at is going to be you're going to see an average and a high and a low end of what 31 has to offer at each level. This one is specific for 2015. So as you can see, in 2015, the number of consultants that were paid as a consultant is right here. They're going to kind of state the average hours that you would work. And then down here you're going to see the high, average, and low average amounts that you make as a consultant and the months that you've been working with consultants. So we're going to focus on the average when we're looking at this. So the next level you see here is the senior consultant. As you can see, there's much less of these than there are the consultants. So you start to be getting into that top less than 6 or 7% of the business when you become a senior consultant. And you see these averages of what a senior consultant makes. Now, the director is where most people are first looking towards when they want to hit to leadership. Senior consultant is kind of a step on the way. And you can see again that the numbers just get less and less, but the pay gets more and more as to what you make a year. Now, a lot of people will say that the senior director is the first real big jump in your income. As you can see, the average consultant senior director is making about around 18,000 actually, I guess, if you round up. You're looking at a part-time job of working around 18 hours, and you've maybe been with 31 on average 3 years. I was closer to this low number, so it definitely can be done. Now, the place where a lot of women are able to quit their job becomes the executive director level. And as you can see again, you're really getting into the top percentage of the company when you're in this elite group of 300 or less people. You're still working part-time is the awesome part. 23 hours a week on average, making about $42,000, on average taking you about over here they're saying on average that it's taking you, that's 6 or 7 years. Again, I was on the low end of this. I'm in the average pay range, and I would like to say that I work about part-time, 23 hours a week, on average when you average out my entire month. Now, some weeks I work more than that, some less. Then you're going to go into the senior executive director, and you're going to see, holy cow, look at these average incomes, look at how long it takes you to get there, and the national executive director, and so on and so forth. So this is, for me, I used to love to look at this and just get excited when I could see the money on the table that I'm leaving as I'm not being in these upper level leaderships. So that is the income disclosure statement. So next up, this is also a document. If you look up career path, you're going to find this on TOT, and we're going to just kind of walk through it step by step. So a glossary of terms. We're not going to go into great detail, but I will, still touch base on all of these. So an active consultant is someone who submits the $200 personal volume in 3 months, so that keeps you active. Building bonus is paid. This is a maintenance requirement for 2017. We're not going to get into that yet. We're not going to worry about compression dollars right now either. Consultant means that you are an independent contractor. Developing director bonus, we'll talk about those in a little bit. DIQ, you're often going to hear this term. DIQ means that you're a director in qualification. That means that you are not quite ready to get paid at the title of director, but you are meeting those requirements. This is the month before you are going to become director. This is the key month for you, so we'll talk about that. Director promotion bonuses. Downline is referring to anyone that's sponsored by you or under you when you become a director. Enroller is the person who sponsored you when you began 31. So for some of you that might be me, it might be someone else. Your Gen 0. So you're gonna hear a lot about generations. So you've got your G0, G1, G2. So your Gen 0 is all the consultants that are under a director down, including to the next director. So let's say that I have recruited Susie, but Susie is not a director and she has recruited Sally. Sally is still part of my Gen 0. Now let's use another example. So I've recruited Heather, who is on my team, and she is a director. So everyone under her is no longer my Gen 0. They then become my Gen 1. Next level, Gen 2. Same idea. So my Gen 0 is Heather. She is a director. Underneath her, she has a director, Johanna, Generation 1. Johanna then has people under her, which are my Generation 2. An inactive consultant is someone who has not put their $200 in their rolling 3 months. Month end is just talking about our paid at. Organizational volume, we're not going to touch a lot on that. Your paid at title is something once you are director that you would worry about. Pass by, we're not going to worry about. Roll-ups. PV, if you're not familiar with that term, also often used is referred to our personal volume, which we'll talk about the requirements for that as a director and above. A qualified consultant. Now this is another key thing that you may or may not be aware of. A qualified consultant is someone who submits $1,000 in personal volume. And when you're looking towards leadership, having these qualified consultants underneath you is key, and we will talk about that. Rolling 3-month period, just going into a little more detail about having that 200 in. Sponsor is the person who enrolls as a 31 consultant, and that consultant is transferred to through a permanent roll-up, getting into something that we're not going to talk about roll-ups right now. Status is referring to whether you are active, qualified, or inactive, which we've covered those 3 terms. Team volume, or TV, or TS, it's often referred to as team sales, includes all of your PV as well as your Gen 0 sales. So your sales are always included in your team sales. Title changes and title director we're not going to worry about. And upline, it referring to your sponsors and the sponsors above them are all considered your upline. All right, so let's dig in. So let's talk about that senior consultant promotion. So a senior consultant, just like all consultants, makes the 25% commission, and they must stay active to be a senior consultant, meaning you have to have that $200 in every rolling 3 months. So the qualifications for a senior consultant are that you need to have 2 what are called PICAs. PICAs is another term that you're going to hear often, and it's personally enrolled and qualified and active. So let's break that down. Personally means that you personally had to sponsor them. So if you sponsored Susie and she sponsored Sally, Sally cannot be your PICA because you did not personally enroll her. Enrolled just means that she is still, she's been enrolled basically with 31. Now here's that qualified part. That's where we talked about that qualified term is where they have to have sold $1,000 or more. Now, does that have to be in their first month, during their starts, well, during their first year? No. The sooner the better, obviously, for you, because that's what makes them a PICA and that's what helps grow your team. But there is no magic date that they have to become qualified. Active, again, means that they have to be still current. So they cannot go inactive and not have their $200 in. So that is your definition of a PICA, which is a real important term when looking towards that career path and moving up. So what happens when you're a senior consultant and you have 2 PICAs underneath you and you are active? You are going to get paid an extra 2% on those personally sponsored qualified consultants that you have. Now, this is not an additional override on your personal sales, but it is on theirs. So it's an extra little bonus. So here you can see, here's your senior consultant with her 2 recruits, and she's going to get that 2% override. Here's where you can see, again, that if you have your active recruit, Susie, who has recruited Sally and Juanita, I'm not thinking of names here, you are not going to get an override on either of them. So that's that first big step, that senior consultant that's fun, and you do get an extra little bonus to your paycheck. But next up, where most of you are looking towards if you're thinking of leadership, that first big step that you really want to hit is your director. So what happens with director? So for a director, you're going to get paid out after you've hit 2 consecutive months of everything that we're going to be talking about. So we have that first month where you meet your director requirements. You're considered the DIQ, Director in Qualification. You will not be paid as a director for that month, and your title will not change. But if you meet all of your requirements the following month of a DIQ, you then will promote to director. So what are those qualifications? To be a director, as well as get paid at a director's level status, you need to hit and submit $1,000 in personal volume a month, which is basically your 2 average parties. I will say from a personal level, I like to see this number at 2,000 so that you have a nice comfort safe zone that you feel every month, not worrying about the next part. You need to have a minimum of 4,000 in team volume. Now remember, this includes your PV as well as your Gen 0 sales underneath you. We'll talk about that in a minute. So again, here's my idea. If you have your 2,000 in personal volume, which is 4 average parties, you're going to hit half of your team sales and feel a little more comfortable. You must have at least 4 PICAs. Now remember, they have to be your personal, enrolled, qualified, meaning they've sold at least 1,000, and active consultants. Roll-ups do not count. If you have questions about roll-ups, please message me and we'll talk about that later. I'm not going to dig into roll-ups here today. So what does that mean if I'm a director? What exactly am I going to get? I'm going to get 25% commissions just like all consultants. But here's the really cool part. I'm going to get a personal sales bonus of 3% on my personal volume, as well as my Gen 0. So let's go over who your Gen 0 again is. Your Gen 0 is anyone underneath you that is not below another director. So here's the difference with your Gen 0 override versus your senior consultant override. So this time, if you have that Sally that you've recruited, and she's recruited Susie and Juanita, you are still going to get the 3% override now on her. She counts in your Gen 0 because Sally is not a director. But let's use Heather as an example again. So Heather is my actual director underneath me. She's actually a senior director, but that doesn't matter. She's considered a director and above. So as a director, I'm still going to get my 3% override on Heather. Heather has underneath her Johanna and Courtney and Heidi and Anne. And they are now underneath her. So they are no longer my Gen 0. They are my Gen 1. But as a director, woohoo, we still get a 2% override over those 4 ladies as well. Okay? So that's your director level. We're going to move on. And we're going to move up that path, or we're not going to move up that path. We're going to talk about your bonus that you can receive. Who doesn't love a bonus? And this can be $1,000 director bonus that you can actually receive. So here we go. So basically you've got 4 months that you're looking at that you want to hit those stats, those director stats, to get your $1,000 bonus. So we have our first month, which is our DIQ month, where we're not getting paid quite yet as a director. Then we have 3 consecutive months afterwards. If we hit the $1,000 in personal volume, we have 4,000 total volume for our team sales, and we have those 4 active picas or more this entire time, you've got it. You're going to have a $1,000 bonus. So let's say that you